Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen, Alyx King, and Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, March the 1st, 2018. We're in March already. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m., the other one, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. I'm happy to be awake. That was a major achievement for this morning, and I have now done my good deed. I opened my eyes, I got up, I moved around. This is a good day. We're off to a good start, right?
Your body is still alive, yeah.
My body is still alive, yeah. Who is it who says? I think it's Mike Dooley who says it. I'm not sure who says it. Somebody says, have you completed your life's mission yet? If you're still alive, you haven't. So there it is.
Yeah, right. I heard that one, yeah.
Any day you open your eyes is a good day.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and plus, when I got here, you guys were chatting it up and joking and laughing and so forth, and that helps. That helps. So, I mean, on the one hand, it shows you guys are in a great mood this morning. And on the other hand, you help give me some energy, so that's good. And you're going to be giving the audience some energy. That's good, too. Good things happening all the way around, just on an energetic level. So, well done,
Yep.
well done. We've done our job for the day. We'll see you all next... No.
That's your daily dose of happy.
That's it right there.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. These guys have been coming up with slogans to put on coffee cups, and that's the latest one, take it or leave it. But,
yeah. No, I've got one, are you happy yet?
Are you happy yet? Sounds like something out of a World War II stereotype with Germans. You will be happy. Oh, no. Okay.
Dangerous one.
Sorry about that, folks. That was just me waking up. I haven't fully opened my eyes yet.
It doesn't matter.
Apologies to all the Germans out there.
Germans are actually very cool people. I got to tell you, too, they have some of the best chocolate in the world. German chocolate. Have you ever had German chocolate? Real German chocolate?
I've had German chocolate cake.
My goodness. No, I mean real, like chocolate from Germany.
No.
Oh my goodness. Try it. And when you eat it, you don't have to eat like large chunks of it. You just sample a little bit. You savor it on your tongue. And as it melts, you just fall into this wonderful, joyous state. And you don't have to eat that much. That's what's so cool about it. But it is delicious. Absolutely delicious. So, just saying.
Okay, I gotta go get some chocolate.
Oh, yeah. German chocolate. Made in Germany. Yes. German chocolate. Yes. Makes a difference. Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, I'm telling you. You haven't lived.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's world famous. It is actually excellent chocolate. Well-deserved reputation there. So, anyway.
There's a chocolatier down the street from me, so I'm going to have to go and stop in.
Wow.
Yeah. You're going to walk in the door and ask them, so are you German?
No, I'm really point me to your German chocolate. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, honey. We don't have any German chocolate.
Oh, no.
You go.
Then you are not a chocolatier.
That's right. Yeah, fake chocolatier. So, anyway, Daily Dose of Happy is here, and we don't really have a lot of questions popping into the comment section yet, so we're kind of on our own for a little bit, coming up with our own questions. And Alyx commented before the show, she's kind of questioned out today. I don't blame her. I mean, I understand the feeling because I do this 5 days a week, and after a while, you kind of run out of questions. But having said that, an interesting question popped up on Facebook today. I thought I'd bring that up as the first one. Somebody said it wasn't so much a question as it was an observation. The person said, "Is it just me?" And I believe it was on the board that we, the group that we live streamed to, the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group. The person said, "Is it me or has this group kind of devolved into a therapy group?" And it's an interesting observation because there are a lot of cases where people, and I think the poster cited things like, helping people to find jobs or to improve their relationships or improve their health or all that kind of thing, and doing it on a therapeutic basis. And I figured that's a great question for us because, Tom, it kind of ties into something that you've been kind of beating the drum about for like God, it's been like 6 to 8 months, something like that, which is that it isn't enough to just say, well, you got to get yourself into a happy frame of mind. You also have to work on what's inside, which is true. You have to work on what's inside. But I'm just curious to know, Tom, what would you have typed as your response if you'd seen that particular post this morning?
Well, exactly how did it put it? I mean, it said, "Is this group turned into a therapy group?" I mean,
that was the gist of it. That wasn't the exact phrasing, but yeah, it just seemed to the poster that the whole thing had kind of devolved into a therapy group for people who are trying to fix relationships and find a job.
well, that's for me, everything about law of attraction is about that stuff because that's what my life's been about, and I'm a life coach, and I always get people who are coming to me with those kind of questions. They don't look for a life coach unless they've got some need like that. I don't, and anymore in my own life, I can't draw a line between what is quote unquote therapy and what is law of attraction. I don't think that the two really are separate. I don't see how they're separate because therapy is about life and every aspect of it, and law of attraction is about life and every aspect of it. But it's all about you being the most effective you can be, the happiest you can be, the most fulfilled you, or the most authentic you, know. And so authentic is big for me these days, because I don't want to be in denial of anything that's going on inside me because I think it's all divine. I think it's all orchestrated for my good, and it wouldn't be happening if there wasn't something there for me to learn and to grow from. And so I don't see the difference between therapy and law of attraction.
I want to alert you, Tom. You might want to back off on your mic just a little bit because we're getting a little breathiness sometimes when you talk. So,
okay.
ASMR. Oh, here we go.
What is that? What does ASMR mean?
ASMR. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically like, have you ever seen videos of people like with those really sensitive microphones and they're like chewing pickles? Oh. And it's like, it's supposed to be really soothing to some people, but it really gets under my skin.
Oh, yeah. I don't like microphone noise, but I can't hear it on my end.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it,
I put it down here and then hope it doesn't rub on my whisker.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's good.
Did that answer your question, Walter? Are you still
upset? No, I think it's a good answer. Yeah.
Are you still upset?
Am I still upset? No, I wasn't upset at all. I just thought it was an interesting question. What do you think, Alex? What would you have typed if you'd seen that particular topic? It wasn't even so much a question as a statement, but what do you think of that observation that person made?
I think that it reminds me of a very famous character, George Feeney from Boy Meets World, and his famous last line on the very last show was, "The secret to life is that people help people." So, yes, this can be a therapy session, but why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't people help people if they can? You know, if you're in the place to give good vibes and elevate people to the vibration that you're at. Why not?
I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I thought it was interesting that the person was kind of complaining about it turning into therapy, as if therapy was a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with therapy? I don't really want to spend all my time in therapy. I actually want to live my life a good part of the time. But yeah. But what's wrong with it? I mean, what's wrong with digging inside and finding stuff that are resistance points and removing the resistance points and making it possible to attract more of what you want in your life? What's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. I don't understand what the person was complaining about, to be honest. What were they expecting? Were they expecting that the group was supposed to be about waving your magic wand? I don't know. I'm not sure what they wanted.
I think they're expecting other people to jump on their bandwagon and start complaining with them.
Well, that could be.
Mm-hmm.
That could be.
That's usually what that is.
Yeah, yeah. It's like misery loves company, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think that a lot of the Abraham stuff talks about not getting into the rabbit hole of analyzing your feelings all the time or looking at them all the time, because you'll just put more and more vibration in that direction, and therefore you'll get more and more of that in your life. Mm-hmm. You'll more and more see problems, and they'll surface more, and it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like if you go into the direction of analyzing feelings and looking at it all the time, then you'll just have more and more of that. And that's their argument against the idea of psychotherapy, that it's just an endless rabbit hole you can go down. So.
Well, aren't the key words there all the time? I mean, because we certainly don't want to be doing therapy all the time. If you do therapy all the time, you're not living.
Right.
No, you're not. No.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that Abraham was ever speaking out against therapy per se. I think they were just saying, don't live there. don't spend all your time. There's life to be lived out here, folks. Come and join life.
Sleep on the couch.
Right. So that's a big point. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, therapy. I spent 9 months in therapy. I probably only needed to spend about 3. And probably only need to spend about a month, actually, when you come down to it. But that was out of my lifetime. So even if you look at it that way, how much time have I actually spent on therapeutic stuff compared to my overall lifetime? A pretty small percentage. Has it paid off? Yeah, it's been helpful. And some of the methods that I learned in there, I've been able to use myself without, sitting in front of a counselor. But does that mean that I spend all my time doing it? Not even close. Not even close. It wasn't even in the same ballpark. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it was an overreaction on their part when they posted that. I really do.
Yeah.
And Alyx, I think you're right. I think they were on a track of, why aren't we doing, I feel sorry for myself and you should be feeling sorry for me too. Mm-hmm. I think that's what that's really about. Yeah.
Really?
But yeah, I think that there are a lot of people who, this is what I call the magic wand phenomenon. They want to have a magic wand that makes the law of attraction work without having to do any internal work, without having to do what it takes to get themselves into that happy place, without having to take any measurements about where they are right now. They just want to wave the magic wand and stuff shows up. Isn't that the way the law of attraction works? That's the mindset.
Right.
Well, yeah, there is that false idea out there that I get clients like that who call me and say, okay, I want to use law of attraction and get my girlfriend back. What do I need to do?
Yep.
It's like, I go, well, okay, let's get started here. And then, 8 sessions later, it's like they're starting to realize, so if I'm not really happy, I'm not going to attract what I want in my life. And, it's got to everything's got to turn back towards their own understanding of their journey through life. It doesn't just happen because they write some good affirmations and repeat them enough,
It's almost like we've become clients of the take 2 pills and call me in the morning culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole culture of modern life in a lot of ways. Right? Mm-hmm. You want instant gratification.
Instant, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, but there's something about life's got processes built into it that have magic in them and beauty in them, and somehow we have to sort of surrender to processes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So, okay, Tom, you said you had 5 questions for us. Let's dredge one of them up here. Let's see what's the best one on the list right now.
Dredge one up.
Dredge was perhaps not the right word. Let's select one. How about that?
Let's get into the sewer and dredge it. Okay. One of the ones I had was, how do you experience the flow in your life? Oh, Walt's not listening. How do you experience the flow in your life between you being in control of what's happening to the point that you're monitoring your thoughts and feelings and allowing Source to orchestrate your life for you? How do you experience that balance between those two things?
I'm lucky if I can experience it at all. I mean, that to me is a victory. If I can experience that, I know I'm on the right track.
Which one?
Well, both. All that combined together. The idea of being mindful and being in attendance, and then also at the same time letting Source Energy do its stuff without me being the constant doer. When I can get into that level of balance, I'm doing great. Yeah. So to me, it's not like it's a conflict. It's more like it's a victory just getting there.
Just getting there. Okay.
And then producing the result, having the result come out of it, that's even better. It's like, oh wow, this really does work. Thank goodness. You need that reinforcement to let you know.
But have you been there? I mean, you've been to that place where you feel like, I could sit here and write out affirmations that I'm going to say, or I could just trust that my life is being orchestrated, and maybe I don't have to do that much. Maybe I just start seeing the magic more by just relaxing more and chilling out and trusting and letting my boat flow with the stream.
For me, practices like affirmations are about getting myself into a happy place. If I try to measure them in terms of what's coming down the stream, I don't stick with them real well. I have trouble with that. So I focus on them in terms of, is it helping me to do this practice today to get into a better feeling place today? That's where I see the victory. When I can do that, get myself into that good feeling place by just doing some practice, I've won. And I trust to some degree, sometimes more of a degree, sometimes less of a degree. I trust to some degree that it's also going to lead to some of the results that I want further on down the line. But I try not to look that far. I spend some time looking that far out, but most of the time I try to look at what's happening today. How good of a job am I doing at staying in my happy place today, or even getting to the happy place today? That's more than enough to be getting on with. To just dealing with that alone, it keeps my day going. Okay,
how about you, Alyx?
I'm like always in the mindset that things always work out for me. So I'm always in the mindset that the universe is going to take care of me. So I don't really stress about things too much because, like I said, I keep speaking into existence that everything works out for me. So in that sense, I'm in control. But other than that, I let the river flow wherever it's going to flow.
So do you trust that there's like this higher power that Abraham calls source and maybe a Christian would call Jesus or God, and that it's just, if you just surrender to that and allow it, you'll be taken care of. Everything will work out that needs to work out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
But there's also certain points where you do have effect on what happens in your life based on what you say and what you do. So.
Yeah.
You go either way.
Yeah. See, that's the interesting thing.
It's a combination of everything, I think.
So it's kind of a flow. You're sort of just flowing along, but sometimes you see how your own assertion of your own will into the process makes a difference. And other times you're sort of surrendering your will to the trust that life is designed to be an awesome, very, very well-oiled working experience, and all you need to do is kind of trust. And this wonderful love will fill your life with what you need.
Exactly.
I think it's a big question myself because I deal with it a lot. And, I've sort of given up doing a lot of techniques to try to manipulate my world. And so a lot more just watching to see and just allowing myself to receive. I remember when Abraham was always saying 100% of your job as a human being is to be receptive, receptive to your well-being. But to me, it's just like receptive, just be receptive, period. Mm-hmm. Like, what's life showing me right now? What's it now? What's it indicating? What's the impulse I'm getting to do next, And do I really need to be worried about what I'm doing to keep control of this whole game? Is this really mine to constantly herd my horses into the corral and be sure they're not running all over the place, That's a big question. How much trust
Or do you trust the universe to be your sheepdog?
My sheepdog. God is my sheepdog. Now there's a T-shirt for you.
Yeah. It'll corral the horses for you.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. I love that thought that I heard where someone was. It was Seth, who was another Abraham type entity that speaks from the unseen realm. When they were saying, "Are you thinking your thoughts, or are your thoughts being, broadcast into you? Are you receiving your thoughts? Because we think so much that we're in control." And
that actually came up in another Facebook post. I don't remember what the post was about, but there was a subsection, like a sub-thread that was going on. And in that subthread, I think the original post was somebody talking about how she was concerned because her daughter had this belief that she had created her mom and her mom didn't really exist.
I love that stuff.
And
so her mom could say, clean up your room, and said, you don't even exist.
You don't even exist, yeah.
I mean, she did create her mom, but her mom does exist, though.
And what it reminded me of, and this is ultimately what I ended up posting after some other exchanges, I reminded people who are Harry Potter fans about what Dumbledore and Harry talked about in Harry's head toward the end of the 7th book, where they have the conversation about, Dumbledore just tried to kill Harry, and he ended up killing his unintended Horcrux, and yada, yada, all that kind of stuff. And toward the end of their conversation, Harry says to Dumbledore, Professor, is this all real, or is this just happening inside my head? And Dumbledore says, well, of course this is all happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that it isn't real?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that summarizes it right there.
Yeah.
Just because it's inside your head, it can't be real? Really?
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's my point.
And what's real? I guess when we're in this reality, this 3D world, there's no question what's real. It's what we're experiencing. That's what's real. But it's amazing that it is all malleable and it's all made out of energy, and there is nothing truly solid in the world, But we got to go with how it seems too, because that's the game here. Got to play in the reality of it's. I was reading this great thing that said the people that are able to shape their reality the most these days are this. I don't know how they tested this, but are the people that are playing a lot of video games, because they're finding that people that are playing a lot of video games are the best lucid dreamers and the best out-of-body travelers, because they're so much spending time in these fantasy worlds that they can go into their own mental fantasy world and go on journeys a lot easier.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think we're awakening a latent potential inside of human beings through creating this external thing. And now they're making these things you wear, where it's even a more immersive. Yeah, it's even a more immersive technology to. But what I understand, at least from reading Seth a lot, is that that's what we humans are completely capable of. We're capable of realizing that our thoughts are creating everything, and that we could be a lot more into that world of creativity with our thoughts. But that comes back to that same question I'm asking. Are we the creators, or are we receiving from something? And is that other thing outside of ourselves that we're receiving from, or is it inside of us? And is it really us that we call source? Or is there something? Because we grew up with the idea there's something like God, who's this guy in the sky with a big beard and controls everything and all that stuff. But really, everything is indicating it's all inside of us. And so, where's the light?
I think it creates an artificial dichotomy there. It basically says it's either we ourselves are doing all the creating through our thought process, or it's source energy that's doing the creating. And I'm asking, why can't it be both? Why does it have to be both? Why does it have to be one or the other? Yeah. So if it's both, then I think the answer is yes, we're doing the creating, and yes, source energy is supporting the creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the difference between us and source energy is blurred.
Well, there isn't really a difference between us in the sense that we're all source energy. The difference, so-called, is that we're also individuals. And I think what confuses us there is we have trouble understanding the idea that we can be part of a continuum and be individual at the same time. We have this belief that somehow if we're individual, we must be separate from everybody else. But it's kind of like saying the same thing as, well, you can't have individual drops in the ocean, because once you have individual drops in the ocean, they're all part of the same water. To which I reply, why not? Why can't there be? Just because you don't see the boundaries doesn't mean that there aren't individual drops. What's a drop? A drop is a piece of ocean. So because you can't see where the boundary is, the drop doesn't exist anymore? Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, well, there's a real famous line from India from some famous teacher, I can't remember who said that, everyone knows that the drop is in the ocean, but few know that the ocean exists within the drop. And so that the entire ocean exists within us, the ocean of the whole universe. And, out-of-body travelers say that you're not going outside when you do out-of-body travel. You're going inward into a universe that exists inside. So there really isn't this outside experience. There's really only an inside experience, and whatever that means, But pretty fascinating, I love playing in that whole realm, because I think that's the essence of what I'm doing here as a human being is to get deeper and deeper into that understanding and that experience of what it is to be a creator or to be aligned with Source. That's the main thing Abraham talks about endlessly is, are you aligned with Source? And what does alignment mean? Alignment means you're somehow in that merged field of consciousness where that you are constantly plugged into this ultra beautiful, divine, all-powerful energy, and it's like, what? I'm constantly connected to that. So what's all this, getting so lost in all my worries and troubles and fears, it's like somehow I'm tapped into that and completely tapped into it, where I wouldn't even be here. And all the trillions of cells in my body are totally aligned with that, or I wouldn't have health. I couldn't talk. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. So what is it for me to finally say, I'm not separate. I am aligned completely with that thing. And what is that? How does my life change when I start realizing that?
We talk a lot about how when we're in alignment, good things happen. When we're out of alignment, bad things happen, or things we don't like happen. And that alignment is about, like you're talking about, Tom, it's about kind of accepting that we are part of this larger whole. Thing about alignment is also that, as Abraham teaches us, when we're in alignment, what we're really saying is we're in agreement with what all of the impulses from that source energy side of us are telling us. And when we're out of alignment, we're in disagreement with what those source energy sides are telling us. Because there's something about it we don't like. Something about it we don't prefer. And
or we're not listening, right?
Or we're not listening, yeah. But for whatever reason, we have found a way to disagree. Have found a reason to disagree. And the thing that's interesting about that to me is it leads to the idea for some people that if you're in disagreement, you're in wrong, which is not the case. We are here.
How could you be wrong?
Yeah. Well, more precisely, the idea that you disagree with what you're getting from the rest of who you are, that inner person, that inner Walt, just because you disagree with it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means you're experiencing contrast. You're experiencing a different way of understanding what's going on, and by creating that contrast, you are also, this is where the whole idea of expansion comes in. I can't honestly say I still have that concept perfectly clear in my head, but nevertheless, that's where the expansion is coming in, and that expansion is good. That is
that's how growth. That's how growth takes place.
That's right. Yeah. So,
and according to Abraham, we're not here to do anything other than expand.
Yeah. I mean, which is that's also mind blowing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Personally, I always thought we were here for a lot of other things, but nevertheless, if that's what we're here for, okay.
German chocolate.
German chocolate, absolutely. That's one of them.
But that's expansive. I mean, because as you eat that chocolate, you are like totally expanding your culinary delight.
Yeah, and I suppose you can paint, expansion to cover everything in life. So I guess in that sense, everything is expansion. But when I take a bite out of chocolate, my first thought is not, oh, wow, this is so expansive. That's not the way I look at it. It's like, oh, wow, that tastes so good.
Oh, wow. I always say to myself, oh, I'm becoming more infinite.
Well, you always were a little weird, so I can understand that.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. That's what the doctor told them.
In a genius sort of.
Yeah, genius sort of way. That's right. Yes.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line.
But that this whole idea that we are somehow in a good place or a bad place because we agree or disagree with our inner being is, I think, a notion we need to change, because that's how that's how we can, changing that notion is how we can more easily and more readily get into that place we want to be in. Because we as deliberate creators who do this show and who listen to this show and who are participating in this this exploration of law of attraction are wanting to be in that better feeling place more often. But we don't necessarily want to be in that place 1,000% of the time. We just want to be there a lot. And we want to be able to do it on demand. So that we can attract what we want to attract and have the life we want to have when we want to have it. I mean, that's what's driving us here. And I think that part of what that is about is learning how to not get so wrapped up in the contrast, get so wrapped up in the part that we don't like that we end up sticking there. That's the stuck part of trying to attract something, getting stuck in that contrast. So what we're trying to learn, what we're trying to practice, apply in our lives is, continue to engage in the contrast, engage in focusing on this is what I like, this is what I don't like, that's what I prefer, that's what I don't prefer, but without getting all wrapped up in, oh, God, I really don't prefer that. Oh, God, I really don't prefer that. And I'm so sick of preferring that. And people who prefer that, that's the part that we want to leave behind.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, that's my take. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
No, let's go. Alyx, did you have more to say?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So she didn't want to go down that rabbit hole of, I don't feel like that. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, well, I've had friends who say, the biggest mistake we make is trying to control anything and trying to prefer things, and thinking that we need to shape our futures, and that that having preferences and all these, all that stuff going on, all these wants, is what really makes our lives miserable. And that when we get into the place where we just accept that we're going to be given the right measure of everything we need, and it's going to be the perfect thing for our expansion, that we can get off of the treadmill of constantly trying to control our lives.
Yeah,
so that's why I asked the question.
I think that viewpoint is one of, I'm afraid of contrast. I don't want to be anywhere near contrast. That's what they're basically saying. I just don't want to have to handle contrast. And okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
The person I'm thinking of, she says, I'm in the contrast and I don't have a choice, but I'm trusting that higher love will make sure that, one way or the other things are going to work out. But I don't have to like what's happening.
Well, there's the key word. She said, I don't have a choice. Well, actually, she does have a choice, but she has. Well, she's in some way she's given up the choice, And why
doesn't want to believe that she has a choice?
Right. Well, that would mean she has to leave the victim energy. That's threatening.
Just to be in victim energy.
So she has to leave the victim energy if she wants to leave that thought behind. See, that's the nice thing about that argument. I don't have a choice about being in contrast. I don't have a choice now I'm a victim to it. Not my fault anymore. I've just washed my hands of the whole thing.
Right. And that's what frustrated me about her, was that she felt that way. And that it felt like, well, you're sort of a victim here. And instead she would say, no, I'm just experiencing what life is bringing me, and I'm learning from it.
Yeah, so she's justifying her victimhood. And that's fine. She's free to do that. That's her trip. And,
we all learn at our own pace.
We do. Yeah. You got to be ready to make the change. Otherwise, you can't make the change. It's just that simple.
Facts.
I mean, the reason I do this show is because I feel like I'm constantly ready to make the change. And then I find there are times I'm not. I'm thinking, darn, once again, I've tripped myself. What's going on here?
Make what change?
Improvements in my outlook on life, in my ability to take control of my thoughts, my ability to notice where I'm giving up my power and take the power back. I mean, that's my goal in life, to keep taking my power back, to keep saying, no, this is my choice. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who got myself this. Everything around me, I did that. And it's hard. That's a hard perspective. Let's be perfectly honest. We were brought up in a society where we are taught exactly the opposite. We were taught what your friend was taught, that, I have no control over this contrast that was given to me. Personally, I like the idea of having control. I'm just trying to unlearn the old belief, and it's hard to do because I'm so immersed in it. But when I look at it, it certainly seems to me to make a whole lot more sense to have that control than to give it up. But your friend has come to the opposite conclusion. Her conclusion is, no, I'd rather give it up because that way I'm not to blame. And that's a big part of this. There's a blame culture that goes on in our world. A lot of people want to blame. I'm not interested in blame myself. I don't think blame is really worthwhile. Not that I never engage in it. Sometimes I do, and then I catch myself. But for the most part, blame doesn't really help at all. I've never seen blame produce any good result. So I want to get away from it. Blame doesn't help me at all. It doesn't make me a better person, I don't think. It doesn't make me stronger. It doesn't make me happier. It doesn't lead to any of the kind of things I want to live in my life. It leads to me feeling trapped, stuck in comfort zones, stuck in safety that isn't really safe, stuck in all these things that I don't want to be stuck in. So I'm done with blame. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, she's coming from a whole other perspective, but it's called non-dual thinking. And it's if you start reading the non-dual writers, of which there's many, it's a whole other world, and it's not, I don't think it is really about blame, and it isn't really about being a victim. It's just a whole other way of looking at reality.
You think so? Okay. Well, I haven't read it, so I can't claim any authors.
Yeah. No, I'm starting to read a bunch of it, and it's very interesting. Sometimes I just put it down and say, no, this sounds too much like giving over all the control to some power. I don't know. It just, it's confusing. Put it that way. For me, that's why I'm looking into it, because she influenced me to look in that direction. And very interesting how much people are into different life philosophies, and there isn't a right way. The law of attraction is not the right way. I love when Abraham said that to somebody who was sort of asking that question. And I had a client yesterday asking me that question, because, my girlfriend's starting to get into law of attraction, and he was, feeling like that's such a great thing and wondering if she'll get into it more. And I said that thing that Abraham said, that, nobody needs to be into the law of attraction, and everything will still work out just fine. And a person can have a wonderful life and never know about Abraham, or know about, the secret or anything like that.
I don't know that particular philosophy of duality that you're talking about, but I've heard a number of people refer to duality or non-duality, either way that you want to look at it. But the point is that this concept of duality, I find to be a very slippery concept, just because you ask three people what they mean by duality, you get three different answers. Trying to pin people down on what duality is a little bit... The
same tricky with non-duality. I noticed that all the different people that write on non-duality, they're coming from a really different perspective. Each one of them is based on how it's showing up in their life, and then how they determine it, that they want to talk about it, and how it's basically life philosophies that people are finding work for them. And but I'm finding life philosophies do change based on experiences we have. Yeah. And things come along and educate us in different directions, and then all of a sudden we're influenced in different ways, and we're off on other tangents. Not tangents, but I don't know. I'm finding things are just constantly changing in my world. But there's constants. Like recently I wrote out a sheet of like all the things, all the LOA insights and understandings that work for me in my life, that seem like they're really solid and clear, for me. But other ones that I was, listening to before from Abraham, they don't seem to work that for me that much anymore. They're like, no, there's too much manipulation in that one. I can't go there. So each of us, I think, has to find that balance between what works as a life philosophy for us that really does grow our corn, so to speak. Like we can plant a seed of something in our life, and we can yield the result from it, and feel like that our direct experience shows us that this brings us the happiness that we want, or the money we want, or the relationship we want, by following that path.
I just get amused by the people who, I don't care which side of the divide they're on, either the duality side or the non-duality side, whichever way you look at it. And I don't know this particular non-duality movement that you're referring to here. But as I understand the concept of duality is about seeing things as two different things at once when it's all just one thing. The most common thing looked at is consciousness in its relationship to the, quote, real world, unquote. Outside versus inside. That's the most common dual concept that I see addressed. And the interesting thing about the people who take that kind of approach is that they seem to be obsessed with the idea of, like you say, of being non-dual, of not getting caught up in the duality of it. And yet they spend all their time talking about things that are outside and inside while trying to pretend that they're not talking about anything that's outside and inside. They're trying to talk about it as if it were the same thing. And I think to myself, do you understand what terminologies you're using here? I mean, you use words that society as a whole describes as inside versus outside, and you claim you're not being dual. It's a kind of a passive-aggressive approach to trying to understand what's going on. And so, I mean, I certainly say, hey, if that floats your boat, go right ahead. I can't really buy into it. I just think we're setting ourselves up when we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to hear an example of what you're talking about to understand it, but I can relate to the fact that it is confusing.
Right, let's put it this way. What I'm thinking about is the so-called duality of us being infinite beings and also us being part of the, quote, real world, the physical world. That's considered by many people to be a duality. And a lot of people who advocate non-duality or oneness or whatever try to dismiss the fact that, or try to dismiss the claim, let's put it that way, that there is an outside physical world. And then they try to act and think as if there's not really, that's just an illusion. It doesn't actually mean anything. There's nothing actually there. But all of their terminology that they use to describe whatever their beliefs are terminologies that are used to describe the real world. They're kind of they put themselves into a trap. They're saying, I am not going to think about these things as being different. And then they use terminologies and thought patterns that are all about making them different. It's like, well,
so they're contradicting themselves.
Yeah, they don't seem to have grasped the idea that all of our language is based on that physical world.
Right.
So what are they going to do? Invent a new language? I'm not sure what they have in mind, but I don't think they realize what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes they're talking. To me, it just seems like it has to be a mental construct that they're talking from. That it's, you can tell yourself all kinds of things, but how much is it just in what you're trying to drum up inside your thinking rather than in what you're actually experiencing? That's sort of what you're saying in a way, what I hear you saying. It's like how much is that a thought construct that you're trying to live inside of a thought construct? Because that's what I tried to do with law of attraction. I tried to live inside of the thought construct of everything fits within this construct of law of attraction, but then eventually realized, no, it doesn't necessarily work that way for me. It doesn't necessarily all fit in everything Abraham says or everything Seth says. It all makes sense, and now I can have a way to understand all of reality. But in a way, that hasn't worked for me that way. I'm still learning. I'm still finding that I've got to come to my own understandings about this.
Yeah. Well, that's ultimately
from my own direct experience.
Yeah.
And so then I read non-dual thinkers, and sometimes I think, they're doing that. Some of them seem to be doing that thing with their head where they're trying to convince themselves through their arguments and their thinking that they see things in a certain way. So that you don't really exist because you're just molecules, you're just like atoms, And so they can say that, but there you are, in front of me, existing.
Well,
at the same time.
I think they also have another problem. They have an epistemological problem. René Descartes very famously wrote, "I think, therefore I am." And many people, including myself, have pointed out that his concept is accurate. He just has it chronologically backwards. Because the proper order is, I am, therefore I think. You can't think until you are first. Their thought doesn't exist without a thinker. You've got to have a thinker before you can have a thought. And so the moment that you think a thought is the moment you declare your existence. You say, yes, I am. And here I am doing my thinking. And the moment that you do that is the moment that you're engaging in a dual world because you're doing it within this physical world context. Now, that physical world may be an illusion. Sure, I can buy into the idea that's an illusion, but you're still doing it in that context. So you got a little bit of a problem if you're going to try to divorce from that context while claiming that you are because you're thinking. It becomes very problematic after a while. I think what we have is people getting all wrapped up about the fact that the world is an illusion. Oh, well, if it's an illusion, then I can't pay attention to it. It's going to distract me. Mm-hmm. So frigging what? Who cares if it distracts you? You came here to be distracted. You're here to interact with us. You're not here to run away from it. If you were here to run away from it, you'd be dead. That's the point of being alive. To come here to do this stuff.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, they're perfectly welcome to follow their own train of thought there. I think they're getting themselves all tied up in knots for no good purpose. I don't see what the gain is, but they apparently get a gain out of it. So, okay, more power to them. Whatever.
Yeah, you have to be in their skin and in their world to know how they're seeing it. And I find that so many times I think, like this person I'm talking about, I think I understand her, and then she'll blow my mind, and I'll realize, oh, I don't even know what really she's talking about. I can't just sum her up and put it all in a box and put a bow on and say, oh, I got her figured out. I know where she's stuck, and I can't do that. I find that her concepts and her life experience is way beyond what I want to try to assume I've got figured out. And it's humbling in a good way, because it helps me see. But I don't just understand somebody just because I've heard a few things they said, and then I can logically find a way to find fault with it or something. But if it feels off to me, that's one thing. Or I see them suffering in a certain way, then it seems like, well, if they didn't think that way, they wouldn't be suffering like that. Then it really makes sense to me that way of thinking is taking them down a path that I wouldn't want to go down myself. But I really can't get into the understanding fully of the whole thing. My mind's not big enough. Walt, I think you could, but I don't. My mind's
I
not
choose
big
not
enough
to. I'm not interested in going down
grasp,
there. I think it's pointless. I don't think there's any value in it for me, so I don't even go that way.
Yeah, right.
But hey, they find value in it. That's okay. But that was a good question. What you said you had 5 questions. I think we've done 1. What else did you have?
Yeah. Let me go to my notes here. Another one I had was, simple one.
Siraj has asked for help this is his 3rd morning in a row. He asked Wednesday morning when it was Alyx and Kelly and I had remembered that it was with Cindy, but actually Alyx, it was with you, me, and Kelly. And then he asked yesterday with Joel. He's in the hospital. He's dealing with health issues, and he's also dealing with financial issues. And he was asking for some ideas on how to overcome them, which we've been giving the last couple of days. Today, he's just simply asking, can you help me keep my vibration high at this time? And certainly we pass our wishes along to you for good health and so forth. We hope that you're also taking the steps you need to take, right? Because you're the one who's got to do it. We're glad to give you as many ideas as you want, but you got to think them. You got to do them. You got to act on them. So are you doing your homework? I mean, you're lying there in bed in a hospital room waiting for, the next doctor to come by or the next nurse to come by to take some blood or, do a blood pressure or something. What are you doing in the meantime? I hope you're doing the work. We're glad to send you the energy, but you got to do the work, guy.
Get out your pen and paper and start doing your gratitude list while you're sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good one.
One thing I find is really wonderful is to follow your breath and spend time noticing your breath in a more and more concentrated way and then trusting that in your breath, that concept of prana as they speak of it in India and chi as they speak of it in China there's total beauty in that breath. And if you spend time with it when you're laying there in the hospital bed and just trust it completely, that it is almost like it's like food for your health, for your healing. And it's food for your every aspect of who you are as a being is to spend time, quality time following your breath up and down. And just notice it going all the way down, notice it coming all the way up. Some people put their focus right at their nostrils. I like to follow the actual motion of, it up and down. And it'll take you eventually to such wonderful places, and it gives you such peace of mind about everything that's happening in your world when you're really giving over everything to trusting the breath. It'll take you out of any kind of pain and suffering. It's amazing what the breath can do. I really have a lot of faith in it.
That's a great point. Yeah. That's basically the beginning of meditation right there, isn't it?
Well, it is, but we are meditative beings actually in our real sense, and I think we spend just too much time thinking about things, and if we spent more time trusting, and also listen to your body a lot, especially if you're in the hospital. It's like you're in the hospital because your body's telling you something. And if you listen to the sensations in your body and you feel into all the different things going on in your body, you don't have to know what their message is to you. You will transform by simply being attentive to all of that, because it takes you out of all this thinking. The thinking is what gets us ill, I think.
I agree.
I think. I said think. No, but feel into your breath and into all the sensations in your body, and trust that there's a wisdom in the breath and in your whole body that is totally where your health lies. That's where all your health lies, in that direction. So that's what I would do. See, I got to go see the doctor today and find out if I've got a serious problem, and so I'm getting myself psyched up for that.
Psyched up.
Yeah, psyched up to go into the doctor. I don't like doctors. I don't like that whole world. I have a great anger about it, and so.
I'm just so used to it. I'm like, all right, where's the next
really?
one? Yeah. I used to hate it, but now I'm like, let's just have it be good news.
Yeah, well, you're still alive after seeing doctors. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, so are you. So are you.
Well, I don't see doctors much at all. I mean, this is one of the first times I have to go. And my brother had to go for the same procedure, and he said, anyway, he didn't like it at all. So,
I'm constantly reminded that the more that I focus on what I want, the more I get of what I want. The more I focus on what I don't want, the more I get of what I don't want. And I was particularly aware of that this past, well, we're still in winter, but this winter when Louise was hospitalized and when she was dealing with all her health issues. And there were particular points in time where we were told things we probably shouldn't have been told by the medical community that were really not very helpful. But they did help us, I mean, from a contrast point of view, to put out a huge rocket of desire in the other direction. Like, nope, we ain't going that way. It was pretty strong,
Yeah.
It was a great reminder that, boy, oh boy, we really do have, I agree with you, Tom, we have that power. We decide our thought process is what creates the sickness, and our thought process is what creates the health. And that's the part that I love. Our thought process creates the health. So anytime that we...
And our feeling process.
And the feeling that goes with it. Yeah, it's not really much of a thought process if there's no feeling going with it. We can kind of think in that sort of feelingless void, but it kind of wears you out after a while. But when you do it, when you combine the two together, then it's powerful. It's very potent. And that potency, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm looking at what happened with Louise since then. I mean, she basically just got, last week, or actually during this week, early part of this week, she got released from physical therapy. She's done with her therapy. And
Nice.
we're actually pointing now toward, I mean, the doctors, one of the doctors that she's dealing with is convinced that she's going to be on medication for the rest of her life. We disagree. Yeah. We disagree. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced she's going to be off medication by July. I'm not sure what Louise has in mind, but the two of us are really thinking, no, this isn't going to go on forever. Because we are going through a weaning down process, of, reducing the dosages. And we're coming up on the next doctor visit to see, okay, do we knock it down another level? Is she still doing well enough that we can knock it down on another level? And at the rate that they're proposing to go, we can't conceivably be to the point where she's off medication entirely by July. So that's why I'm thinking July is the time. But I mean, it's going to really come down to what her thought process is. How much does she focus on feeling healthy and doing healthy things, and how much time does she focus on feeling sick and doing sick things? It's going to come down to that.
Yeah. Because what you focus on is what you get. And that's the amazing thing about law of attraction.
Yeah, no kidding.
What you focus on is what you're going to get more of. So
yeah.
How do you get your focus? And that's why I do like to be focusing on my breath and focusing on the sensations in my body, because there's a tremendous, you might say, naturally divine or wonderful organization to the body, mind, and spirit. The combination of who we are as beings, it has an organic wholeness to it that we simply it's almost like we only get sick in a sense because we've somehow lost touch with some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Abraham always says, is like everything is actually all healed. There's nothing to heal. We have to get back in touch with wholeness.
Right.
And feeling the sensations in our body and following our breath is a way to trust that there's a wholeness there. There is a complete health that's contained in the breath and contained in the body, and we have to just be listening and feeling and letting ourselves trust it.
Right.
That we'll be fine. It's like this day ahead of us. There's complete beauty in this day, and it has incredible potential for all kinds of beauty to manifest. And I just need to be in the place where I'm open to that, and I'm receptive to that, and I'm expecting that. I'm looking for that, and I'm not anticipating another problem. I'm not anticipating the things that are going to go wrong. I mean, if I'm going to go see the doctor I'm going to find out whether I have a really serious problem. And I realize this is so much dependent on what I'm thinking, what I'm believing.
Yeah.
Because what I walk into that doctor's room with is going to have a lot to do with what they find.
Absolutely.
In fact, if you listen to Abraham and Seth, everything they're finding is being created in that moment by me. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, and them, but it's really me, whether or not I've got a disease process going on, it's completely up to what I truly am vibrating with.
And it's true.
That thing will be there. They'll find it if I'm vibrating with it. And if I'm not,
it won't be there.
It won't be a problem.
It's true.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found really cool, this is something that I learned early on doing the podcast. My first regular co-host was my sister-in-law, Iona, who is, I believe this coming August, she's going to finally get her PhD in the neurosciences. I'm not sure what the exact degree is, but she's going to be getting her degree. And in the course of her studies, she was sharing a lot of the things that she was learning on the podcast. One of the things that she learned was that they've been able to, using various, measurement, visualizing techniques, visualizing meaning like using X-rays and, what are those things called? The various kinds of things they can do to see what's going on. CAT scans, MRIs, all that thing. Yeah. They can actually visualize the process of what happens from the moment that you think something to what happens at another part of the body. They can actually track it through the body if they really want to. And they've been able to identify the fact that if you have a thought that is a good feeling thought about whatever, about the health of your gut, and then you track down that process to the gut, you can actually see within 90 seconds the gut starting to increase the amount of healing activity that goes on. And and at the same way, if you could start a thought process about the gut being sick, 90 seconds later they can track down to the gut that the gut is now generating things like cancer cells and so forth to start killing itself off. It's literally that quick of a response.
Yeah, I believe
it's that fast. It's a minute and a half. So, I mean, it's not just Abraham that's telling us this. Science is telling us this. Literally, our thoughts are driving this.
Science is also telling us that there are millions and millions of brain cells in the gut and in the heart, and now they're thinking throughout the entire body, and that we're actually thinking and living through the entire organism.
Yes.
So if these people say I've got a gut intuition, I've got a gut feeling, well, you literally have brain cells, like thinking cells in your gut that, so your gut is really telling you something. And it's not thought like we think it. That's why I say feel the body sensations, because the body is wise, and it adjusts itself by us trusting it. It literally adjusts it by us trusting it and listening to it and getting out of even thinking that it's all in our heads. So there's a lot of ways to find health. There's a lot of avenues into letting the organism really function as its beautiful self. It's trillions of cells, and it's like trillions of intelligent beings are combining to make us what we are.
That's right. It's true.
Wow.
And the 90-second rule, that 90-second cycle, because it is a 90-second cycle from the moment of thought to whatever part of the body. The time varies, but it's usually about 90 seconds. That 90-second cycle gives me a tremendous sense of power, because I know that even if I'm not feeling it, even if I can't actually sense a healing going on, if I can just remember the fact that that 90-second cycle is going on at all times, all I have to do is just keep focusing on the thing that I want, and I can trust, 90 seconds later, I'm creating healing. 90 seconds later, I'm creating healing. 90 seconds later, I'm creating healing. It makes it easier for me to stay in that zone long enough to the point where I actually start to actually feel, oh, wow, my leg feels better. You know, it's kind of like a sustainer to get me through that time. Just remembering, that 90-second thing is working every time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just like that 16-second thing that Abraham said. If you can stay focused on something for even 16 seconds, then it'll attract the next complementary feeling. The next complementary thought will come. And then if you can stay with that, and by the time you do that 3 times, they say you're in a groove then. You're in a momentum that will then really start to roll. And so that's why putting our focus on the thing we want is so powerful.
Good stuff.
Well,
we're about a couple minutes over, so we should probably draw to a close. Tom, quickly, for somebody who wants to reach out to you for something on a coaching level or just personal contact, how do they reach you?
They can go to my website, which is youarejoy.com. That's the words youarejoy.com, and sign up for a free half-hour coaching session with me, which usually turns into an hour. But then you can see whether you want to coach with me or not. And it's a lot of fun.
Very good. And Alyx, I know I've asked you that question a couple times this week, so I'll just leave it open. Anything more you need to tell people before our week is over?
As me and Tom discussed, we're gonna start working on some merchandise and some t-shirts and some mugs. So we're gonna see how that works and get that started.
Cool. All right. Well, then we're gonna have to come back and see how that's gonna work out. We hope you all join us next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.